It's gone red.
You're broadcasting.
Am I?
Yes.
Here we go again. You can see I'm still not good at this. So we're just checking to make sure that we are live. Are we actually live? Yes, we are. All right. So good morning again, and welcome back to another session with me. My name is Rosemary, and we're having a discussion. Today, it's going to be a discussion about, can the spirit world see us? And if they can, how much can they see? And I remember, going back so many years now, but I can remember when I first realized how much the spirit world could see. This is a true story. I started using bubble bath in my water because not having bubble bath, I felt completely exposed. Now, the truth of the matter is that I'm sure that the spirit world has got better things to do than actually, you know, be peeking at me while I'm in the bath or in the shower. But it gives you some indication of how very clearly, when the spirit world wants to see us, when the spirit world wants to be around us, when they want to be involved with us, how very clearly they can see. Many years ago, I was invited to an organization called the Tomorrow's Children. And this is a bereavement group. And this particular group that I was invited to go and give a talk to was based just outside of New York City. And I would go actually twice a year to see the people in this support group. When I first started going, it was maybe, I don't know, a dozen parents. The Tomorrow's Children is an organization which deals with bereavement of children who have had they've been terminally ill with a particular and virulent type of cancer. Although there were not children there who just died of cancer, there were children there who died of for many different reasons. But during my visits to the Tomorrow's Children and the group, every time I went, it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and there were more and more parents because, you know, word goes out if somebody's coming. And I would go there for free, and I would be very happy to talk to the parents of these kids, because I think the worst kind of loss that any of us can experience is the loss of a child. I'm saying that as a mother, and I hope and pray that I'm never going to actually experience anything like that. But it was always amazing to me how clearly the children from the spirit world would come through to talk to their parents, and also all of the things that they could see, amazing things that they could see, little things. I can remember a young boy, he was probably about 11 years old, and he'd died of this awful cancer. And he was talking about his father, who happened to be there. He was giving a message to his father, talking about the fact that he knew his father was wearing his cricket shoes that didn't really fit him very well, and they were a bit tight, and but the father, every time he went out to play some kind of sport, would wear his son's shoes. Even though the boy was only 11 years old, he was a big kid, and so, you know, the father was amazed. Well, how does my son know this? How can my son tell you that? Or that indeed, how does my son talk to you? This father had lots of questions. But the fact is that those in the spirit world, they come to us, they see us, they're still a part of our family. They can see all kinds of things that we do. They hear what we have to say. They can even connect with the thoughts that are going through our head, because, again, I'm going to remind us all, everything is energy, and our thoughts are tiny pulses of energy which go out into the universe and are captured and heard just as if they've been spoken. by those in the spirit world. Talking of the tomorrow's children, it is fairly well known in my circles that I'm all for kids. So anything to do with kids, any organization that is helping kids, I like to get involved in. And I always try to spend time, particularly with parents of bereaved children. And as we were preparing for these little discussions that we're having, we have had an email from a young woman. Her name is Sandra. And Sandra was a member of a support group in New Hampshire. So I'm saying hello, Sandra, if you're watching. And we've had a few emails going back and forward from Sandra. And Sandra emailed to say, Rosemary probably won't remember this, but I was in a bereavement group in New Hampshire, and 22 years ago, and or I think, well, maybe, I don't know, was it 22 years ago? Anyway, a long time ago. And she probably doesn't remember me, and she probably doesn't remember this session, but I lost my son, etc., etc. And she was reminding me of the fact that I went to New Hampshire, and she probably doesn't remember, she said, but actually I remember New Hampshire very well. First of all, I remember it because I had to drive a long way with friends. The second reason I remember it is I spent several hours with this group of parents. And the third reason, probably the most important reason, is that when I talk to parents who have lost their children, it's very meaningful to me and very moving to me. So I'll often remember, you know, certain things that have been said. I might not remember the parents. I could pass them on the street, or I could be sitting having coffee with them and I wouldn't remember them. But I might remember their children, or I might remember what those children have said. So when my assistant Carolyn was reading this email to me, and she said, you probably don't remember. And I said, yeah, well, actually I do very well. So write back to Sandra and tell her, you know, I can remember a young boy in the spirit world who was able to give a message to his father. Tell my dad I know he's wearing my hat, and something about us and Christopher. And there was also a message about there's a leak under the sink. And I don't know if that message was for Sandra, but there was a leak under the sink, etc. How clearly can the spirit world see? Well, you're sort of getting somewhat the idea. Well, we sent Sandra that email. So again, hello, Sandra. And Sandra wrote us back to say, well, yes, that was my son. His name is Christopher. And yes, you told us that his father was wearing Christopher's hat on that day you came to see us. How clearly can the spirit world see? They can see whatever it is they want to see. And I'll remind you again, when I first realized how clearly they could see, just for my own embarrassment, I really did start putting bubble bath in my bath water. Right, so we're going to have some questions, I think. We've got Carolyn sitting next to me, so when you see my head turning to the right, you'll know that I'm looking at Carolyn and saying, Carolyn, my dear, can we have the first question? And before we have the first question, thank you all again. We've had such a response. Every week we get more and more responses. We can't answer everybody's question, but sometimes, you know, we have several people asking the same question. So keep listening, keep watching, because your question may be answered, even if it's not to you directly, it might be through someone else. All right.
Good morning. Deborah from Meetup. When you go to the cemetery, does the spirit know you are there?
Oh, yes. Well, Deborah from Meetup, hello. And, you know, I don't call them spirits, and I don't call them ghosts. I don't believe in the paranormal. how weird for me to say that. And I don't believe in the supernatural. I believe that everything is normal and everything is natural and everything in the universe is as it should be. Do people in the spirit world, do our loved ones in the spirit world, are they there when we visit the graveside? Well, I always say to people, okay, all this business of taking flowers to the grave, and I know that people are very particular about doing that, and I do get why people do that, because they're wanting to give that gift of love, and they're wanting to show those in the spirit world that they love them and that they remember them and they're important to them. But I always say, someone in the spirit world will walk with you, because they're not in that grave. So when you go to visit the graveside of, let's say, your mother, right? You go to visit your mother, and you go to the grave, and your mother is walking alongside you, and will stand with you as you visit the grave. And then you might lay your flowers down on the grave, and then you and your mother will walk back home. And I always say, just be careful, because, you know, who gets the flowers? Nobody gets the flowers. So I always suggest to people that if you want to give flowers to your loved one, instead of taking them to the graveside, my suggestion is this. Most people have a photograph somewhere in their house of that person that they've loved and now lost. So find a nice vase, get some good flowers, put them in the vase, put the vase of flowers by the photograph, so that you and your mother, so that you and your loved ones in the spirit world can all enjoy the flowers, instead of leaving them on the wayside to wilt and to rot and not to be enjoyed by anyone. Our loved ones are not in that grave. They are living, breathing, thinking, enjoying, all of those things, you know, that we hope when we pass we'll do. Yes, it's in another dimension, but don't think for 1 second that all they're doing is sitting idly on a cloud waiting for us to pay attention to them, because they're not. They have lots to do. Next question.
MJ Beck asks, what is heaven, and do spirits wish they were here instead of there?
What is heaven? Oh gosh. Well, you know, my idea of heaven, oh dear, my idea of heaven is that place where God is, that place where there is light, that place where there is love. Not everything beautiful and wonderful all of the time, because if that's the case, I'm not going to learn very much. But my idea of heaven is, you know, a place that we can go where there is love, where there is light, where there is goodness, where we can continue as souls on our journey, where we continue to learn and to grow in a good way. The idea of heaven is different I think for so many people, and depending on your religious beliefs, you know, who am I to say? I'm only giving you my idea of what I feel heaven is. And I'm giving you my idea based on the fact that I have actually traveled to the spirit world. I have traveled across that void which separates our two worlds. I have had glimpses of heaven. I have had glimpses of what it's like there. Although, if someone were to call you up, let's say someone from Mars were to call you up and say, hey, so somebody calls me up and they say, hey, Rosemary, you know, I'm from Mars. What's your world like? Okay, which part of this world am I going to describe? My own part of this world, which is beaches and sunshine. I have to tell you, I do live in a nice part of the world. Am I going to describe India, parts of India where, and parts of the, you know, the third world where there is poverty and pain and no food? which part of the world am I going to describe? Am I going to describe the desert lands? And if I spend an hour or even 2 or 3 talking about this world of ours and trying to describe this world of ours, I'm still not going to cover all of the areas and all of the ideas that this world of ours might give to somebody else. So when you ask me, what is heaven like? It's a little bit like the Martian saying to me, Rosemary, hey, tell us, what is your world like? It's different. There are different parts of it. There are, different spaces. There are different terrains. There are different ideas. The universe is vast. That other world, as we call it, is vast and has many facets to it. I hope I didn't confuse anybody there. Was there a second part to that question?
What is heaven, and do spirits wish they were here instead of there?
And do people in the spirit world wish they were here? Well, actually, they're here whenever they want to be. They can come and visit whenever they want to. It's good that we keep our door open or the windows open or someplace where they feel they can come through and come to visit with us. In other words, it's always good for them to feel that we are open and that we can sense them and that we can have some idea of their presence around us. I've never, that doesn't mean it isn't so, but I've never encountered anyone in the spirit world who has said, I wish I wasn't dead. We don't believe in being dead, but I've never encountered anyone who would wish that they were anywhere other than where they were. And the joy of it is that they, although we feel that we have lost them and we are very much involved in our own grief, they haven't lost us because they do have the ability to come and to visit and to see us and to hear us and to be a part of our lives whenever they want. Next question.
Linda from Meetup. Does the spirit know what you are thinking?
Oh, Linda from Meetup. Hello. Hello, everybody from Meetup. Yes, I think I said right in the beginning that people in the spirit world, they certainly can hear our thoughts. Remember, everything is energy. So, when we put a thought in our head, it's a tiny pulse of energy, and that tiny pulse of energy will go out into the universe and can be captured by those in the spirit world. Again, when I first realized how much the spirit world could hear my thoughts, that was a bit scary for me, because our thoughts aren't always so nice. Our thoughts aren't always, what we would speak out. But those in the spirit world can see us in our entirety. They can hear us. They can feel us. They are aware of us in every way. When we have a thought, when we're in this world, we can think what we like, and nobody can guess what we're thinking. We can think awful things. When somebody says to us, what do you think to my sweater? Even if we hate it, we can say it's very nice. But you can't hide from the spirit world. You can't hide your thoughts. You can't hide your feelings, and you can't hide from who you are. So we have to be much more aware of what we're thinking and try to be a little bit, I personally have to try to be a little bit nicer because sometimes I'm not so nice. Next question.
Okay, this is a question I've been wanting to ask.
Oh boy, yes. You get time to ask questions all the time. What's your question, Dan?
Why can't everyone see spirits as easily as you, or at all?
Okay. I don't know. The answer to that question is I have no idea. When you've had the ability to sort of to do something all of your life, and it's something that just happens to you, it's very hard to understand that other people can't see or hear or feel the same things that you do. It's so natural to me, and people say to me all the time, you know, what's it like? What's it like? Isn't your world crowded? Isn't your life busy? Don't you get overwhelmed by all these people, all these spirits, as you call them? And in turn, I look at you, I look at all of you who can't see or who don't know how to see. I look at all of you who don't have this ability, and I wonder, and my questions to you would be, you know, aren't you lonely? Don't you get lonely? Don't you get sad sometimes? What do you do when you need help? What do you do when you're calling out to someone in the spirit world and you can't see them? And I feel that, you know, as busy and as hectic as my world can seem to be, I think that, you know, I feel very sad that people don't see. And this is why we do the workshops sometimes, because we're actually planning on a workshop in Sarasota in, do we have a date yet? September 17th. September 17th. If you want to know more about that, by the way, email us, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com, and we can give you more information. But we do workshops. I try to do workshops to help people to become more sensitive and to become more aware, and to be discerning about what they're seeing and what they're hearing. You know, if you in your area can find someone who can help you with that, you know, and that's something that you'd like to do, then I would suggest make sure you find a good teacher. Make sure you're not talking to someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. You know, I'm so grateful for my gift, and I'm so grateful that I can see, and I do feel very sad for those of you who cannot, for whatever reason. And the next question is?
Gabriella in Mexico. My mom passed away 5 years ago, and I did not get to say goodbye. Is she okay? Is she happy?
Hello, Gabriella from Mexico. Oh, that question, are they happy? It's the most common question that I'm asked. You know, my mother died, is she happy? My grandfather, my son, my whoever, are they happy? And the answer is no, not always, because happiness, it depends on a state of mind, it depends on a frame of mind, it depends on, for instance, if my daughter is unhappy, I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to be unhappy for her. I might be happy about some things, but not happy about other things. I would say that people in the spirit world have that contentment that perhaps is a very elusive thing for those of us who are still here on this earth plane. But being happy depends on, you know, whether our loved ones are happy. Gabriella, this is what I would say to you. If you're grieving and if you're in pain, your mother is not going to be happy about that, because remember, the spirit world sees all. They see everything. And your mother will be watching you in pain and grieving. And that goes out to all of you who are out there who are grieving and in pain. Your loved ones in the spirit world will see you. If you're crying every day, they will see it. If you're in pain every day, they will see it. And what do you think that is going to cause them? If they love you, they're going to be unhappy for your pain. They're going to grieve for you because you are grieving. So one way for us to deal with our grief and to make sure that we do the most we can to ensure that our loved ones in the spirit world are happy and are content and are getting on with their lives is to think about all of the things that they may be doing in the spirit world, perhaps some things that they didn't even have a chance to do while they were here on this earth plane. There are so many things for us to do once we go to the other side. There are so many places of learning, so many interesting people to talk to, so much help and advice that we can get from so many people in the spirit world. Those in the spirit world are not sitting idly, and they're and they don't have to wallow in their grief. One or two might, but they don't have to wallow in their grief because they have people who can help them and who can guide them, who can support them, and who can hold their hand and lead them forward to a fulfilling and a happy continuation of their life. So Gabriella, if you could just, and I'll say this to all of you out there who are grieving, if you could at some point in every day find a time in every day to smile, to find a time in every day to say to your mom, I love you and I hope you're happy. To say to your loved ones in the spirit world, get busy because I'm going to get busy. Show them in every way you can. At least once a day, spend, it only has to be a minute or 2 or 5 if you've got 5 minutes in a day, just to say to them what you wish for them, what you hope for them, that you know you want them to be happy, and you know that they have an opportunity to be busy, and this is what you want for them. But every time our loved ones in the spirit world see us smile, they smile. Every time they hear us laugh, they laugh, because we are their concern. Next question.
Next question is Linda Ann from Meetup. She has 2 sons, a firefighter and a New York police officer, and she worries constantly. It would help so much to know if they are being watched over by someone in the spirit world, which kind of reminded me of the story you were telling me the other day about your friend Joan and the car.
Okay, right. All right. Linda Ann?
Linda Ann.
Linda Ann. Hello, Linda Ann. And all of you out there who have that same question. Oh my goodness. You must be very proud, Linda Ann, that you have these 2 wonderful sons. But I would imagine that you don't have much peace in the day either, always wondering if they're going to be in dangerous or difficult situations. I am pretty sure that they have their loved ones in the spirit world who are with them, who are guiding them. I cannot say to you that they're going to be safe and well, because I'm not God, and only God decides these things. Having said that, as I'm talking to you and I'm talking about your sons, I do have a good feeling that they're safe. I do have a good feeling that, I can't say don't worry, because of course you're going to. You're a mum. As I'm a mum, we always worry about our children. But, when you are in this situation, it's a question of, not only having faith, but living your faith every day. And living your faith means, trusting that God is going to do the right thing by your children, trusting that, He is going to keep them safe in the best way that He possibly can. I had a situation many years ago which might help you to understand a little bit how much the spirit world can see and in what ways they can sometimes protect us. I had a friend, her name was Joan, and Joan was a part of my group. She was one of my students, and she was a healer. Her husband and 3 sons were all mechanics, a couple of them car mechanics, and they totally knew what they were doing around cars. Okay, so one night during a class situation, Joan was sitting there minding her own business, and I saw her grandmother in the spirit world, and her grandmother said to her, or said to me, look, I can see Joan's car, and it's sitting by the side of the road with a flat tire. Now, Joan happened to be going on a long journey the next day with her daughter-in-law. So I said to Joan, you know, you need to get your husband to check your tires on your car before you leave tomorrow morning, because I really feel that your grandmother in the spirit world is trying to tell you, you know, to let you know that, you know, you need to drive safely and be careful. Joan went home that night, and the next morning before she went on her journey, her husband and her 3 sons went over her car with a fine tooth comb, and they found nothing wrong. And Joan called me and she said, look, they've checked it over. Do you think I should drive the car? And I said, yes, I think you should drive the car. But instead of going at 80, 90 miles an hour down the highway, which she tended to do, I think you should sort of stick to the speed limit or under the speed limit and just take it steady. Just you know, instead of arriving in 3 hours, you know, arrive in 4 hours, just take it slowly. But I couldn't get the picture of this car out of my head, the picture that her grandmother had shown to me, because I knew Joan's car and I had definitely seen it parked by the side of the road with a flat tire. Joan went on her journey and took it steady. Thank goodness. She did not speed. She watched the corners. She did all the things that you normally should do when you're driving a car. And she arrived at her destination perfectly safely. And she was visiting family. So she and her daughter-in-law got out of the car, and the daughter-in-law, it's a complicated situation, but the daughter-in-law had a boyfriend with her anyway. So they all went inside and they had a cup of tea. We were in England at the time, and they had a cup of tea. And then the daughter-in-law and her boyfriend said, you know, we're just going to go out for a walk. Is that okay? And Joan said, yes, see you later. So off they went out of the door, and within 2 or 3 minutes, they came chasing back into the house and shouting at Joan, you've got to come and see this, you've got to come and see this. And Joan's heart started beating furiously because she knew what she would find. They went out of the house, and sure enough, there was Joan's car parked by the side of the road, and yes, you've guessed it, with a flat tire. Can the spirit world see into the future? Obviously they can. Can they help us, guide us, warn us? Yes, they can. Do we listen? Do we listen enough? No, we don't. Even myself, and I know how much they're there to help us and to protect us. I know that I don't always listen. And when I don't listen, that's when things don't go right for me. So you need to try to listen. It's all very well saying, do the spirit world hear us? Are they with us? Do they take care of us? Yes, they do all of those things. But we need to learn to listen to them, and we need to learn to pay attention to them. And we need to learn to raise our level of consciousness to a point where we can be quiet, where we can be silent inside of ourselves, so that if someone is tapping us on the shoulder, if someone is trying to tell us something, we are listening. Next question.
Okay, this one's from Beth S. I moved here for a job in April, and I miss my family. I have a good job, but I am lonely. I'm 58, not too old to be settled, and I'm trying to redesign my life, but I'm not sure if I made the right decision to move back here, and I'm not sure about my job.
Beth. Hello, Beth. Beth S. Hello, Beth. All right. Well, all of those questions are the kinds of questions that I would, say to people who want to have a consultation with me, to book a consultation. All of those questions are the kinds of questions that you would ask if you were going to see someone like me for a consultation, and to have those questions answered. We can't answer all of those questions, Beth, here and now. There are way too many, and we need to go much more in depth. However, the reason we chose this as one of our questions is, again, remember the theme of today is the spirit world sees all. And as I was reading this question earlier on, I had this feeling that I should talk to you. I'm not going to answer all of your questions, darling, but you know, you say that you moved here, you moved to Florida. Is it moved to Florida?
This
Yes?
area.
Okay, in February, sorry, in April. You've hardly had time, and I get it. You're unsettled, you're questioning yourself, you're wondering, did I make the right move? You know, and so on. But my feeling is this. My feeling is that you've not given it nearly enough time. I think that if you give it more time, and if you make an effort to join some things, there's lots of stuff going on in Meetup. There's a dance, something or another, going on in Venice, I do believe, which I'm joining, definitely. But there are all sorts of things, and there are all sorts of ways to meet people here, because, you know, this is an area, particularly Florida is an area, but I'm going to say to all of you out there who feel unsettled, who feel lonely, who feel that you maybe made a wrong move, you know, you can't sit at home and expect somebody to come and knock on your door. You've got to go out and find friends. You've got to go out and become involved in things. And we're lucky in this particular area because there are so many things. Whatever your interest, there's something for you going on here, groups that you can meet. So Beth, darling, give it a little bit more time, and try if you can. I know it's easy for me to sit here and say it, and I know it's not so easy to do. I'm fully aware. I think I said last week, people don't realize how shy I am, and I hate going to these things by myself. I hate going to, you know, anything social by myself. So I get that you might be shy about doing that, but sometimes we just have to jump. Sometimes we just have to take that fear that we have of rejection, take that fear that we have that we're not going to find anyone and we're not going to find friends, and just take that fear and go with it. If you face your fear, the fear will go away. So, you know, join a choir. There's so much stuff going on with art that you can do. Join an organization, volunteer. We have several hospitals here and all over the world. If you're a person who is sitting there thinking how lonely you are and wishing that you had friends and wishing that you could do something with your life, again, I'm going to tell you, no one is going to come and knock on your door. No one is going to come and say, hey, you know, I don't know you, but how about coming out with me? Nobody's going to do that. So if you're waiting for something to happen to you, forget it, because it won't. But how about getting off of your bottom and going out and doing things for yourself? And see, my little puppy agrees with us because he's just standing up and listening to all of this. And, you know, go out there and make it happen for yourself. But please don't give up. You know, you've made this move. It must have taken you a lot of courage to do it, Beth. Don't give up. You know, it's far too soon. It's only, 3 months or something, not even. No, this is a wonderful place. You can make it a wonderful place for you. Wherever you move, unless you go back to what you know and go back to family and all of that, wherever you go to, you're going to have the same issues. So, you know, give it a little bit more time and make a little bit more effort. Next question.
Okay, Tiffany from Florida. If spirits see all, then why don't they help us more? For example, when a child is in danger.
Oh, that's a really good question. I think we already said, you know, God decides. God decides these things. We can all say, I know people who have died who I really felt shouldn't have or oughtn't to have. I felt that indignation when, when someone dies or someone suffers greatly. I had a patient who had cancer for 6-7 years, had so many surgeries, so much treatment, suffered greatly. And she was one of the loveliest and the nicest people that I've ever known. And, you know, my first patient, my first little boy, my first child patient, should I say, Mark, suffered greatly, and his mother suffered greatly. You know, why? And I found myself asking why. And I found myself being angry, and I found myself shouting at God on many occasions. Why did you let this happen? Why does this person have to suffer so? And what I try to realize is this, and it's not easy. It's not easy. What I try to realize is that our time on this earth plane is but a blink of an eye. We're here and we're gone before we know it. Even those of us who live to be 100, our time here is as a blink of an eye. The pain and the heartache that we suffer is momentary. I know it's hard. It's hard to understand, especially if you're the one who is suffering the pain day in, day out. But in the larger scheme of things, in the universal scheme of things, that pain it's a momentary thing. And I think of all of the, you know, all of the lessons that I've had personally over my life. And, you know, my life hasn't been easy. My childhood was certainly not easy. Not nearly as bad as many, but worse than many too. And excuse my puppy. And you know, when I think about all of the things that I've suffered through and have come out of them, I always can tell you that there's always been a lesson. I haven't always learned the lesson, but there's always been a lesson. I've always been able to learn and to grow from eventually from the struggles that I've had. And part of living and part of this human existence of ours is not only living with the pain sometimes, but learning from the pain and struggling through the pain in order for us to become stronger. If I had not suffered and cried, I would not be as empathetic. I would not be as sympathetic. I would not be the person I am today. The pain and the suffering has made me better, bigger, stronger, bolder, and my soul has grown through those things. When we have to watch someone we love, yes, I'm sorry, but I'm grabbing you here. When we have lost, or when we have watched someone we love who is in pain and suffering, then, yes, I love you too. Then, you know, the heartache that we feel and the wishing that we feel, if only we could do something, we feel so helpless. But again, it's about living your faith, and it's about understanding that God is, we got him, that God is around us, God is with us, God is helping us, God is guiding us, and that there is a reason for the suffering that we see, and there's a reason for the suffering that we have to go through. We don't necessarily know the reason. I cannot tell you why God lets some things happen, and you know, some people are saved and some people aren't saved, because I'm not God, and I don't know all of the answers. And anyone who tells you that they have all of the answers is someone who's fooling themselves, because none of us have all of the answers. I don't know why God decides the things he does. I don't know why God allows children to suffer. But I do know, because I'm very fortunate to be able to be on the other, let's say on the other side of things. I'm very fortunate to be able to see those children who have suffered, to see those people who have suffered, to talk to the victims of the Holocaust who were, you know, went into the ovens and who were gassed. And I've been able to talk to them once they have arrived on the other side, once they have survived this world and are now living their lives in that next world. And I have never spoken to anyone who has suffered these awful things, who has had any bitterness or even any regret uh, uh, as to how they died and the suffering that they've had to go through. I've spoken to many people in the spirit world who have had regret as to how they lived when they lived in this human existence. I've heard people regret that they didn't say, I love you enough, that they didn't talk about their feelings or their emotions enough. But I've never spoken to anyone in the spirit world ever who has regretted going through pain or heartache or suffering, and not even, which I find amazing, not even those victims of the Holocaust, not even those people who suffered at the hands of others through torture, through pain. So I don't know why God decides what he does. I live my faith, and I know and I believe that there are reasons, even though I'm not capable of knowing them or understanding them. When I'm ranting and raving at God because he didn't do what I think he should do, I have to remember I'm not all-knowing and all-seeing. I don't know the reasons for this, and I trust that God does. Next question.
It's that time for the personal question.
Oh, here we go. The personal question. Let's go for it. I always cringe at this bit.
Who's the most famous person in the spirit world?
That I've connected
Yes,
with?
that you've connected with.
Who is the most famous person in the spirit world? Well, it depends on your idea of, who's famous. I've spoken to many, let's say, famous celebrities in the spirit world, and I have to say this is an embarrassment to me because I always laugh, the slogan, have you seen Elvis? And so many people all over the world claim to have seen Elvis, whether they believe he's still alive or whether they believe they've seen him, dead or in spirit. I'm always embarrassed about this because almost every medium, psychic I've heard of has seen Elvis. But I was in California many years ago, and I was in the William Morris offices. William Morris offices, it's an agency for celebrities. And I was, chatting to people. I was really listening more. There was a meeting going on, and although I was the subject of the meeting, I was more listening than anything else. And suddenly over in the corner of the room, I see this man wearing, yes, the white jeans and the white shirt and all the rest of it. And I'm looking and I'm thinking, that looks like Elvis Presley. And he turned to look at me and he grinned, and sure enough, it was Elvis Presley. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not going to say a word. I'm not telling anybody that he's here, because I don't want anyone thinking that I'm nuts or jumping on a ridiculous bandwagon. I am not going to say a word. However, Elvis Presley had different ideas because he kept saying to me, look, and he kept pointing to one of the agents in the room to say to me, can you just tell him I know that he bought one of my guitars? And I'm saying, no, I'm not going to tell him. He says, yeah, please, I want you to. And Grey Eagle is saying to me, Rosemary, you have to say. And I'm saying, no, I don't want to. They'll think I'm nuts. Anyway, eventually I was persuaded, against my better judgment, to say something. So then when there was a lull in the conversation, I said to this guy that was pointed out to me, I said, could I just ask you a personal question? And he looked at me and said, yeah, go ahead. And I said, did you just buy an original Elvis Presley guitar? And he looked at me and he was so shocked, and he said, yes, today. How do you know? How do you know? How can you, he was shocked. And so I said, well, I feel a bit embarrassed to tell you this, but Elvis Presley is here in the room and he just told me. So as embarrassing as that little tidbit is to tell you, and it still embarrasses me because I don't really like to admit that I was talking to Elvis Presley, although I think he's great. It just makes me look ridiculous. Anyway, so that is my most, not necessarily my most famous person, but certainly one of the more embarrassing of the famous people that I've spoken to. I think that ends our session for today. Almost. Oh, we have another question.
No, not a question.
Almost.
You just wanted to say welcome to all the people in the spiritual world.
Oh yes, I do. We as I said in the beginning, we're getting so many emails and messages, and we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're getting all these things coming in, which is lovely. And there are so many of you out there who yourselves are either you have some psychic abilities, or you're aware, or you're sensitive to the spirit world, and we're getting all of you who are interested in this and doing this for yourselves. I'd like to say welcome to all of you, and thank you all for your great comments. Even if your comments aren't so great, we're happy to hear them, as long as you're not rude to us, as long as you're not mean. We're happy to have any comments and any questions. So please keep your questions coming in. Thank you to all of you once again who are participating in this. We did make a video yesterday of we had a kitchen experience. So go to YouTube, go to my channel, Rosemary Altea YouTube channel. What did I cook yesterday?
The lamb.
We cooked the lamb. It's hysterical because the camera is probably all over the place. I've not checked it out quite yet. Anyway, and we tried out the new camera. So if you just want to find out how to cook a nice braised breast of lamb, and check out how silly we can be, and how much the spirit world can get involved in you in the kitchen and cooking in the kitchen, go to YouTube and find that. If you have more questions, or if you want to know anything at all about us, Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com is the email. www.rosemaryaltea is the website. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. If you need anything from us at all, email, and we'd be very happy to send you an email back. Thanks a lot for watching. God bless you.